This is the reason why we didn't have a rap at the end of 7 Pounds.
Oh my God. Imagine. I just killed myself with the jellyfish.
Sweet Christmas.
Shout out to my birds.
Hello. This is Che.
This is Cory.
And this is the Next Time On Podcast, a podcast where two lifelong friends discuss all things amazing and all things fed in popular culture. We're doing a movie thing today because Cory was like, I'm going to watch this shark movie and I want to talk about this shark movie. And the shark movie's terrible.
Yeah, the shark movie is truly horrible. I don't actually remember what drew me to do this in the first place. I think when I suggested that we do this was many a month ago.
It was a while ago.
It was a while ago.
Maybe was it a Samuel Jackson thing? Or I think it was even before me going to see the Meg too. So I don't think it was.
It was before that, because I think it was before I saw Jaws again, which was around the 4th of July. So it was a while ago.
Who knows why we did this?
But between that, we've had a lot of issues. I mean, you guys watching the live stream, I'm sure you're wondering why my background looks insane. It's mostly because my basement flooded, and I've been truly afraid to put my computer back on the ground again because it keeps raining every weekend on the East Coast. So it's been lovely.
We can't catch a break, can we?
No, we cannot.
It's been quite a couple of months for us.
Yes, it has.
Before we talk about this absolute dog shit shark movie, just a couple points of business as usual. Don't forget, follow us at Next Time On Pod on your social media platforms. You can find us at nexttimeon.net. Also, that's where all of our archived writing, all of our podcasts, all that good stuff is. We have not announced the book club yet, right? No,
not yet.
I figure we'll do one more book club, one more movie before the end of the year because
that sounds good.
2023 is already over, which is insane.
I want to say this because this guy's been slowly becoming one of my favorite creators. We've mentioned Che's favorite, one of Che's favorites, Murder Falcon, Wonder Woman, Dead Earth, Jurassic League, which was fucking insane. And he's currently headlining the new Transformers book, which I thought was really well done with the first issue. I'm doing the graphic novel Do a Powerbomb. I just bought this. Been looking forward for a while. I have never got the chance to read it. I have it sitting on my table right now. So, just want to call my shot so I don't have to go buy anything new.
Yeah, I like Daniel Warren Johnson stuff a lot. I think we talked briefly about the Murder Falcon book a while ago, but yeah.
Also, Beta Ray Bill book was also really good as well. Like he's like had like
read that. I think we talked about the first issue, but I don't.
The first issue, it does end pretty. It ends pretty well. He has it's like a combination between heavy metal and a lot of melancholy. It's an interesting conversation. It's an interesting juncture between the two of them, but really do like him as an artist and author. But also Wonder Woman Dead Earth, you guys haven't had a chance to read that. It's also excellent. He is the only really hit for me, I think. I don't think I've ever read anything by him that I thought was bad. But Do a Powerbomb, I think it's about wrestling, written and drawn by Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah, so that's what we'll do sometime next month. Right now, we're going to jump into it. We're talking about Deep Blue Sea. Cory, the question is, what the hell is this movie? 1999, Renny Harlin, shark horror movie?
The way that Wikipedia describes it as a science fiction, I'm going to throw shark in, horror film. So I guess it technically is a shark horror thriller film, I want to say, with some bullshit. Yeah, I guess it is science fiction because they're just saying some shit sometimes about.
Well, which it's a movie about how sharks get big brains and learn how to like outsmart humans. So yeah, it's a bit. So of course, 1999, Renny Harlin, the director of such actually good films as Cliffhanger and Die Hard 2 and The Long Kiss Goodnight, and then recently as such unwatchable garbage as the Nick Cannon vehicle, The Misfits. So it's been a real rocky career for our boy Renny. Also written by Duncan Kennedy, Donna Powers, and Wayne Powers, who I don't think have any other significant writing credits, which is a big part of why this movie is not great. And starring
Starring.
Was this guy ever? I mean, I know Thomas Jane. Do you think anybody was ever like, I love Thomas Jane, let's go see it?
I think a lot of people have this nostalgia for the first Punisher film.
That's right. He is the first Punisher. I always forget that movie exists.
Yeah, and I think
It's bad.
it wasn't horrible. And I think for the time people liked it back when like those were kind of acceptable. I'm sure they don't age well at all.
Yeah, I bet you it was like before. It's like how everyone for a second thought that Daredevil was good. We just didn't have enough superhero movies to know that they didn't have to be shit.
I think that's exactly what it is.
But
But
it's like John Travolta's in it too, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think John Travolta's the bad guy in it. I'm pretty positive. But besides him in that, I don't really know much about. Like, I think I watched the first episode of Hung, and I didn't like it.
Is the plot of Hung just like he has a big dick, right?
I think that's more or less what
like
it's
the
about.
Entire it's like a drama about, or like a dramedy about how this guy has a massive penis, and I don't understand. I think I remember watching like a lot of that show for some reason. I don't remember why. He was also in The Mist, which to this day is I think funniest sad ending ever, where this guy kills his entire family because the mist is encroaching on them, and then seconds later they're all rescued by not them, he's rescued by the military. So if he just waited for 4 seconds not to shoot his entire family, they'd have been fine.
It is like truly the meanest, I think,
it's like so bleak in a way that's just like it's just shock value.
I do love that ending though. It's a really good ending, but it's really just
I think
mean.
The timing of it makes me, because if it was just like, it was like he sits there for like an hour and then the military comes, that's different than like seconds later. I don't know. I remember just as like a kid finding that even then ridiculous. But yeah, Thomas Jane, other than those 3 things that
I think, and technically he's the star of this film, kind of. It's a weird,
it's a weird
ensemble cast.
He's supposed to be the star of this film, but he is the most forgettable part of it by a pretty wide margin.
I've watched this movie twice, and I do forget. Like, whenever he does something, and also the thing about his character, we'll get into it more, is he doesn't actually really do anything.
No.
But we'll get to that more in a second.
I think the point of his character is he's supposed to be like the shark whisperer, but that's not really...
That's not his thing.
It's not really indicated in the film. Also starring Saffron Burrows, who...
showed up.
Who's gone on to do, like, not a whole lot. She's... Would you say she's fine in this movie?
No.
Oh, okay. I was trying to give her a little bit. She's also in The Bank Job, which I do love, but her character in The Bank Job is comically shit. Troy, of course, and then a movie that I don't think... Have you ever seen this movie, Cory? The Loss of Sexual Innocence?
No, I have not.
It's a series of vignettes that's not good. I don't know what we were thinking in the 90s, but it wasn't let's make good movies, I guess.
Clearly not.
And then, of course, the 2 actual stars of this film, which are Samuel Jackson as Russell Franklin and LL Cool J. Yes, that LL Cool J as
who's
one of
in
the
basically
characters in a horror movie ever, Preacher
Strangers.
Dudley.
And also, he's in the movie by himself. Like, he has his own little adventure basically for half the film. He's by himself and playing off of a bird.
It got to the point where I was like, hey, did they actually even meet on set? And then eventually he just opens that door and they do see each other. But I thought for a second, the first time I rewatched this, I was like, did they actually ever see each other?
It could have been reshoots, honestly. For like, I feel like they had to like.
For a lot of it, they. I bet you it probably was like his character was less of a character, and then they added a lot of the stuff that's happening with just him in the kitchen with the shark by himself. Because that stuff is really weird. It just keeps cutting back
really
to him.
weird.
He's alone. It doesn't really make any sense. But we will cover all that shortly. But before we get into this movie, there's a special section for this podcast in particular. And it was both a product of Cory picking this and, as I said before, me paying my hard-earned money to go see The Meg 2.
Oh wait, no, that's your own fault. I don't feel bad about that.
No, you can take no blame for that. But The Meg 2 is a movie that is bad in a way that movies aren't really bad anymore. It's hard to even describe. There's like, I honestly don't even really want to talk about the Meg 2. It doesn't matter. But that movie was shockingly terrible. The first one I think is bad, but not nearly as bad as that one. But the big question is, are there any good shark movies? I mean, are there any good shark movies other than one? Obviously,
other than the one,
which is like one of the greatest outliers ever, because it would be like if we were having the same conversation about another much maligned movie genre, video game movies, and then there was one video game movie which was like one of the 10 best movies ever made or something like that. That's basically what we're talking about, where Jaws is one of the greatest American films ever made, of course.
I mean, I think
classic.
I'm starting to kind of get deja vu about how we maybe got to Deep Blue Sea, because I think it did start as being like, what's the second best shark movie? And I think I threw out there, is it Deep Blue Sea? And I think even at the time, I'm like, I don't like that answer, but am I wrong?
Well, so I have, over the course of the last month, watched a lot of shark movies, ladies and gentlemen.
He does the work for this.
Rewatched a lot of shark movies, watched a lot of shark movies for the first time, and I'm here to report that Deep Blue Sea might not be the second best shark movie ever. I'm not 100% sure I agree on that, but it's not far off, and that is terrifying.
That's so sad.
Let me just run down a couple other nominees for second best shark movie. These, I went through a lot of lists, and then I watched a bunch of random movies. These are the three that I think were the most common appearances on the list. And we have The Reef, which is... have you ever heard of The Reef, Cory?
No, describe it to me.
This is... I think this movie was Australian, right? I'm trying to remember. It's all these shark movies are a blur, because the other thing that's weird about shark movies is there's 3 different shark movies, and they make them over and over again. There's the survival shark movie, which is people usually trapped in the middle of the ocean, or like I guess sort of like this one, trapped in the deep of a research facility, being hunted by sharks. There is the shark action movie, which is kind of like what The Meg is like, where we have to go and kill the shark before it kills us. And then there's the shark monster movie, where the shark is like Godzilla, where it's just like running,
which is also like the Meg,
kind of like the Meg too. Yeah. They're all sort of combinations of each other. This one is a survival movie. And my issue with shark survival movies is they're fucking boring. It ends up just being white people swimming in the ocean for 2 hours.
I think another thing about sharks movies in general is just don't go in the water. Like, sharks can't get you in a majority, well, not a majority, but like they can't get you if you're not in the water.
Well, so this movie, The Reef, is
okay.
Again, I'm trying to piece. I'm pretty sure this one was based on a true story, sort of, about an expedition that goes wrong. Like not an expedition. They're not explorers. A group of friends who like went on like a boating trip, and their boat capsizes, and then they try to swim to safety and are never seen again, which is basically the plot of the movie. And maybe it's because I'm like desensitized to this shit. It doesn't scare me. I just get really annoyed and feel like I kept looking at my watch, being like, is this fucking movie gonna be over yet? So that's number 3 on our list. As you see, I'm really high on these movies.
Oh, gotcha.
We've got number 2, which is another survival film, Open Water. And I actually remember this movie.
Is that with Blake Lively?
No, we're getting to the Blake Lively one. Don't worry.
Gotcha. Okay, I remember the trailer for the Blake Lively one, where I'm like, this seems like an actual good idea.
Yeah. We'll go over that in a second. Open Water, 2003 film, very similar to The Reef. Basically like the spiritual prequel to The Reef, and another one that's based on a true story of a couple that gets abandoned in open water during a scuba diving expedition. Now, as a kid, I remember seeing this on TV and being truly horrified. I would have been 10 when it first came out, but probably saw it when I was like 11 or 12 or something on like TNT or some shit. And I don't know if this was the reason that this is one of my greatest fears ever, or it was like I had my fear of open water and giant sea creatures. It was exasperated by this movie. But I remember as a kid being terrified. I rewatched it a couple weeks ago. Well, one, it was an indie film made with a shoestring budget in 2003. So 20 years later, it just looks horrendous. It's like kind of hard to watch how bad it looks. It's like in 144p, and I paid for the fucking thing to rent. And on top of it, again, it's just two people who are not actors. This stars Blanchard Ryan and Daniel Travis, who never worked again, as far as I can tell. Just
Blanchard.
floating in the water.
Sorry, I shouldn't make fun of someone's name, but good.
It's the merciful part about this movie, at the very least, is that it's only an hour and 20 minutes, which is barely the length of a movie, because again, they're just floating in the water the whole time. I think it's a more of an interesting idea for a film than an actual film, and that is number 2 on our list of contenders for second best shark movie ever. Before I get to our number 1, I just want to run down the Vulture list. Now, this is the best shark movies since Jaws. Basically, the answer to the question we're talking about. What the hell? Vulture's got to have the answer, right? I'm not going to go through the whole 12, but this list does include 2 Jaws sequels. And I think if you're claiming that the Jaws sequels are any good, you're already on very thin ice.
Yeah, I think notoriously they're horrible, right? Is Sharknado in there? If it is, it annoys me.
Oh, Sharknado is number 9 of 12. Beating out, and this one was my favorite. I'd never seen this movie. I did not go and watch it because of the description Vulture gave. This is number 10 on their best shark movies of all time.
Jesus Christ.
Since Jaws. Tintorero Tiger Shark, the 1977 movie that they describe as a borderline softcore porn film from Mexico that only occasionally remembers is supposed to be ripping of Jaws between scenes of moonlit skinny dipping. This is number 10 of their best shark movies since Jaws. Is basically not a shark movie. As I said, number 9 is Sharknado. We have another movie that they claim is not a shark movie, Zombie, at number 8, the 1979 Italian. I think basically like cult classic.
Also, not trying to dismiss international cinema, but it's just kind of telling that these schlocky foreign films are making it into the top.
I don't think the Italians are really offended by you saying that Zombie is not a good movie. We've got
Italians. Comment below. Let me know if I've offended anybody.
We've got The Meg at number 5. Our beloved Deep Blue Sea at number 4, which we're about to talk about. 47 Meters Down at number 3, which I watched for the first time in preparation for this. Is the Mandy Moore, Claire Holt movie. I forgot how bad an actor Mandy Moore is. She's just really. The whole movie is just her acting basically, and it's not. Yeah. It's not good. The end also, which I won't spoil in case somebody really wants to watch 47 Meters Down, is horrendous. And then their number 1, which I guess I agree with. Is The Shallows with Blake Lively, the 2016 Survivor shark movie about a.
Remember the trailer for that?
She gets trapped. She's basically surfing in a deserted beach and gets trapped on a rock and a buoy, and is being hunted by a shark because there's a whale carcass nearby. I like Blake Lively. I think she's actually a pretty underrated actress. I have been sorry to see her not really work so much recently. I think partially because she just had some kids and is doing the family thing, and I think partially just because as we talk about women approach 40 in Hollywood and get abandoned. But I really liked her a couple years ago in that Simple Favors movie, and I think she's good in this movie. And the problem is, it is an hour and 26 minutes, which again is not the length of a movie. It's basically the length of
a Thrones
episode. Hour and 26 minutes, because again, it's just a woman sitting on a rock. You couldn't make a 2-hour movie of this.
Honestly though, if it's just that, don't waste my time. Thank you for that. I appreciate a tight 90.
But here's the thing. Is it still too long?
Oh.
This movie should
tight
be
90.
short. I think this would be a pretty gripping, fun 30-minute short. And obviously you then wouldn't get Blake Lively to be in it. And
only person who can get shorts done is Wes Anderson. Do not get anybody else.
But yeah, The Shallows is, I guess by default, it's the best shark movie I watched. Maybe there's one hiding out there that I hadn't heard of or couldn't find on any list. And I think even that I would say is at best, if I'm being generous, a C- movie. And that brings us to the big question. Are shark movies the worst return on investment genre ever?
I have to imagine yes, Because it's not just on like the top that doesn't really work out. Besides Jaws, it must be incredibly difficult to film in the water. Like that has to be like a lot of work on top of that.
Miserable too for like actors. It's kind of weird to keep getting these made, honestly.
I mean, like all those movies too sound like someone's like in the water floating, which just seems like every day I got to be pretty much cold.
I think that's why the Meg 2 work, because I don't actually think they're ever in the water.
I mean, even Jaws, it's like they're in the water, but not that much. It's mostly on a boat.
Yeah, do any of the main actors actually... I'm trying to think, do any of the main actors ever even swim in that movie?
In Jaws?
I don't...
Richard Dreyfuss does.
Does he?
He puts a scuba suit
That's
on.
right, of course, the scuba suit.
Yeah. He goes in the shark cage like a fucking idiot. It's a very annoying scene to me.
Can't believe I forgot that. That's embarrassing. But yeah, I mean... Honestly, I set out to answer a question that I basically sort of already knew the answer to, and then got the answer that I expected to get, which is that shark movies are terrible, and Deep Blue Sea might be like the third or fourth best one ever, which is terrifying because this movie is real bad.
Because like, I think not even on paper, the fucking concept's stupid. Should we run down?
I thought you mean of Deep Blue Sea in general or shark movies generally? Because I think shark movies should be good. It's weird.
I agree with you. I think it's like a general suspense thing. You're in an environment that you're not meant to survive with, and you're being hunted down by one of nature's like last apex predators.
Right.
It should be fucking terrifying. And the idea that this movie involves two apparently smart as fuck sharks and is not scary whatsoever.
Cory, 3 sharks.
I'm sorry.
Maybe more. There's also sequels. There's Deep Blue Sea 2 and 3, which I admit I didn't even bother to watch for this exercise because they're supposedly real. They're horrendous, so I didn't even.
But like, how is it more? I don't know. Never mind.
No idea. But yeah, we can run down the plot. I can do that really quick if you want.
Sure, you can do it, man.
There's not much of a plot to this movie. Basically, as Cory said, there are 3 genius sharks in the. Do we know where this facility is?
I don't believe so. I'm assuming really maybe
the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't know why it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't fucking matter.
The middle of the ocean.
It's in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, trying to cure Alzheimer's, which I actually think for the setup of the movie, the fact they're trying to cure a disease like Alzheimer's is the only thing that makes it even believable that they would be so like.
I think
Susan
that's a good
McAllister
point.
Is actually determined to get her research back in a way that makes sense to me because you're like, here's this thing that one could save a bunch of people's lives, and she has that pretty poorly acted scene where she's talking about how her dad died of Alzheimer's and couldn't even remember her mother's name.
I saw the movie twice. I really forgot who she did that scene. So that's the acting, really big testament to that scene.
But then you also are like just thinking, as far as Samuel Jackson's concerned, who is the investor, this would be an incredible boon for them. So that actually plot-wise makes sense. Then they go to the facility and there's a cast of characters that are truly ridiculous, including one of my least favorite human beings on planet Earth, Michael Rappaport, who's playing a smart person. Why did they cast Michael Rappaport to play a smart person?
It just doesn't work.
No,
it's like a group
so goofy and dumb.
It's like
when
they
he dies,
have like
I feel nothing. Obviously,
I felt nothing when anybody died in this film. To tell you the truth, I forgot about the very famous Samuel L. Jackson one, the first one around. And I'm like,
the only thing I was
forgot about that one. Then I watched it and I'm like, why the fuck was that so mean? And also, we just lost the only interesting character in the film.
You say you felt nothing when anybody died. The only one that I felt anything for was when Samuel Jackson.
That's what I meant.
Not because I care about the character, but because I was like, this movie's gonna be even worse now somehow.
If he was carrying it, then he left, and I'm like, well, I don't care.
Don't care at all. So after a torrential storm in the ocean, the security systems of this research facility are basically weakened, and left stranded are the scientists and Samuel Jackson, the investor, on this facility, and they try to escape as they climb up through the sinking facility to escape these 3 man-hunting sharks, and they are mostly incredibly unsuccessful.
Mm-hmm. They're really bad about it.
Is that the worst final death in a horror movie ever?
It was because it's incredibly pointless the way she did it. And
well, I think it's indicative the same way as the Samuel Jackson, where they're like, this movie, whether it be because of Reny Harlin or because of the Powers and Duncan Kennedy, the writers, they seem to want to like flip a lot of stuff on its head. They're like, here's this cool speech moment. Let's have him die in the middle of it. That'll be really unexpected. And then we're like, here's the final girl. She's lived. Let's have her die at the end for no reason. It's like, but sometimes you just overthink yourself.
Yeah, and I feel like the whole like her being bait thing kind of ended up being nullified by pointlessness, and then it's like, well, also, and like the sharks are so smart, but they're still animals, and I'm like,
that's the thing.
But it's like, okay, so here's my thing of my entire beef about that scene. Yeah. We've established that the sharks are smart enough to, in a scene earlier in the film, where kind of like the breaking point, the start off point, after the scientists prove that they can cure Alzheimer's by the bullshit and as you said, I agree with you. I think it's a really good motivation for it.
One of the worst
but then,
BS science scenes ever, though. Like they just
that's what I'm saying. Like
juice on a piece of a brain, and they're like, "We fixed it all.
We did it. We fixed Alzheimer's." And it's just the way they're explaining it. And I'm like, I usually like bullshit science explained to me when in complete seriousness. But it was just so nonsensical that I had trouble keeping sense of things. But in the scene where they're like opening the shark up to get the brain goo or whatever the fuck they're doing. Stellan Skarsgård, who's in the movie, that's the thing, like, they took two really fun actors, and they're barely in the film.
Yeah.
Stellan Skarsgård gets his arm bitten off, so they try to fly him out of there, and through weather shenanigans and whatever, his body on the gurney gets landed in the water. So the sharks use this bloodied body to shoot the gurney that he's somehow still awake in. To bust open the facility to begin the flooding.
It's one of the worst action sequences ever, because you're just, even if you have if you think critically about it for 4 seconds, honestly, all I said was like, how the fuck is he still alive?
That was an insane part too. It's like, it makes no sense he's still alive, but also that nullifies the final point of the film, because she's like, you're still an animal, blah blah blah. You're gonna get me because I'm bleeding. If that's the case, why would the shark not eat Stellan Skarsgård? Why would they keep him alive to shoot him forward? Because he's even more bleeding because they bit his fucking arm off.
Yeah, it's
Explain this to me, Che.
I couldn't have fewer answers for you, unfortunately, because I'm with you in that I thought, because she's the one that best knows how smart the sharks are, because of course it's revealed that her and Skarsgård's character, who is his dad at this point, are the ones who basically, like, I guess it's cutting corners or like frowned upon medically or something. I wasn't clear like why everyone was upset with them that they did this, but either way, everyone was upset that they did.
Yeah, this. they kept like they kept on saying like the Harvard Accords or some shit like that. But like that, was there a group? There was like a group consensus being like, we shouldn't make animals too smart.
Well, it was something about like modifying brain chemistry that didn't make any sense to me, because
they made them too smart. It was,
wouldn't any version of this research where you're researching shark brains require you to alter shark brains? Either way, I don't think the movie thought too much about it. I think we're thinking too hard about it. But yes, her jumping in the water, again, I think it's not like, I don't think the people that wrote this movie or made this movie thought about it from a plot or like a believability standpoint. They were just like,
which is like, as a writer,
fun to like flip on its head is kill the final girl when she actually lives. Is really all
lots of versions. We let the black guy live to the end, so honestly, like, that's
one of the black guys.
One of the black guys. The other black guy he got the fucking murdered the fuck out of. His body. I guess he's not technically
the first one to die, obviously, but he's
true.
The second one to die, really. Oh, actually, that's not true, because Tony Soprano's sister also just dies this movie for having basically not been in it. Very weird. That brings us to our next issue, which I think you guys will agree with us on, is Rotten Tomatoes right? And Cory, did you look up what the score is for this movie?
No, I didn't.
We have a 60% from the critics on 115 reviews, and then a 39% from the audience at over 250,000 reviews.
Wow. I agree with the audience.
I think they're both kind of high, though. I mean, the critics are preposterous, but
60% is insane for this film. I feel like maybe back then, I think people had a different view of things. I remember people actually liking this movie when it first came out.
I think people still
like adults.
Like
but
I said, there's
now
2 sequels. There's 2 whole Deep Blue Sea sequels.
I mean, the idea behind it's not bad though. It's like you're stuck in a facility that's like going under and sharks are like chasing you. They just happen to make it super boring.
And Reny Harlin at the time was like a pretty steady hand for action. It's actually it's kind of weird to me how boring this movie is.
Yeah.
Cuz it's not even like it's not weird to me that it's bad, because as we said, the return on investment for shark movies is low to say the least. But for a movie that is about people trapped in a sinking building in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by 3 superhuman intelligent sharks, the fact that the first hour is so slow is strange. In a way that like it also doesn't feel indicative of like 90s action movies either. This is the era of like quippy one-liners and constant explosions. What's going on in this movie?
It's like a long meandering of nothingness, and then when it finally starts, it's like, okay, like, oh, it's finally going, and then it gets like boring again, and then like it's a lot of explaining, and I could not tell you a single bit about what the hell their plan was to get in or out of it. They were like, we gotta go this way, and I'm like, I don't fucking care. Just it's like, it doesn't fucking matter to me. Just do the thing. Like every time something bad happens, I don't give a shit.
It's a pretty loose collection of of action set pieces where I think basically Harlin just had a list of stuff he wanted to do. He was like, you know what's really fun? Elevator shafts. And then he did that. And he's like, you know what?
It's like the Mission Impossible memo, but like without any of the fun of Mission Impossible.
And also just like not over the top enough. Fucking Tom Cruise tries to commit suicide every time he makes a Mission Impossible movie, and that's why they're excited. No one in this movie is trying anything interesting at all.
They didn't and I think my later note about it is that they didn't lean into how campy this should be.
Right.
It should be campy. It should be like a slasher film with sharks, but they're treating it like too seriously. And I'm like, you gotta like tone it down, or at least give some kind of character to it, because everyone there is just so boring. And I think at a certain point when Samuel L. Jackson's giving the backstory about him being in that avalanche, I'm like, my brain's like, I want to watch that fucking movie.
Yeah, but also the avalanche story is, I get it. He's supposed to be this guy who survived a tragedy already, but the way he opens up is one of we're gonna get to it. One of
gotta get to that line, but
ever, but
it is.
It also is like it just doesn't mean anything in the situation. Like,
I think it's supposed to stop infighting, but also at the same time, it's also like, did you eat those people or did you kill those people? I guess
they killed them and then ate them, or they died because they wouldn't cooperate and then ate them. I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll never know.
Because he got eaten by a fucking shark.
Let's take a quick break and we'll come back and we're going to talk about some of the best and worst things in this movie.
We had poker here tomorrow night.
She'd always draw to the inside straight when she could have stuck with a pair. Big dreams.
Even in death, standards. Okay, Jan was a healthy girl. Something in your has to run on batteries. Nice. Where would a girl keep her thing? Hey, what's the matter with you?
And we're back.
What's up?
I've officially, the sun has turned. It's starting to bake in this room, so we're gonna try to move a bit faster through these categories. And up first, before I lose my full use of my brain as it melts in my head, is the best and worst performances in Deep Blue Sea. We already basically covered it. We're obviously in agreement on the best. That is clearly Samuel Jackson, the only person really having any fun in this movie, and also like has any charisma or gravitas or anything.
He knows what movie he's in, and his character is the only person who is like a character.
Yeah.
which is weird because I'm like, oh, you wrote like a person who actually kind of has multi-layered and like you kind of get a bit more of him as the movie goes on, and everyone else is just one-dimensional,
right?
And all those other characters are the ones you keep alive the entire film.
It's odd, but they did it. Where we differ,
yes,
where all I can say is they did it. Where we differ is on the worst. Now, I actually. So who is your worst, Cory? Okay, we talk about it.
Mine was Saffron Burrows as Dr. Susan McAllister.
We differ on that because I just don't think. Listen, I don't think she was great. As we already covered, I don't think the rest of her career has really lent the fact that she's like an incredibly talented actress or anything like that. But I don't think she's terrible in this movie. I do think the character, as it seemed like it was a rule that all female characters in 90s and 2000s action movies had to be nonsense.
We have to come up. I think at some point we have to come up with a term or like a phrasing for this weird obsession with the 90s and 2000s of these women characters, and at some point they take their clothes off for no reason.
That scene is actually we will get to that. That's one of the worst scenes ever.
But
because
I think
it's like scientifically insanity. It's
not insanity.
Anything works.
No.
But yeah, that was and
to justify myself a little bit. It's just every time she delivered a line, and like her facial expressions never changed, and it was just so unbelievable, and I just didn't buy a single thing she said, or I had no empathy. I just had nothing from her, which I think it is also how they wrote her, but I just felt like she showed up and learned her lines about 10 seconds beforehand and just went on set and then just delivered them as flat as possible. Just, I don't know, like she had much to work against. I mean, Thomas Jane is playing stoic white man.
The thing is, I think she's getting like lobbed balls 40 miles outside the box. Is trying to
that's
swing
fair.
It down, like...
Yeah, but I don't know. I was just like, they're trying to, I was like, are you like acting? Like, I didn't have to look her up afterwards. I'm like, I just sure you had no career after this because it was just so not good.
She hasn't had no career, but it has certainly not been
a good career.
She's not an A-list household name by any stretch of the imagination. No, it's true.
I'm Saffron Burrows?
I'm not entirely disagreeing with you. It's true. I think maybe my pick is mostly my personal hatred of this man, and we've already covered it, and that is Michael Rappaport's performance in this movie. I think, honestly, if any other person had given this exact performance, I wouldn't have liked it, but I don't know if I would have hated it. But the fact that it's Michael Rappaport, who is like just like a legendary dickhead, is playing this supposedly genius scientist who they have like a callback to being like, trust me, I'm the one who knows all these things, is such poor writing and poor casting. I think he's awful. When he gets eaten by the shark, I think it's hilarious. Because it's also like, it's again, every shark attack in this movie is I think they just want it to be such a surprise. Because it's a scene where you're no one's going to die, obviously, then suddenly there's just like a shark in the room and he's dead. You're like, what the fuck is happening?
I mean, I think we talked about like bad horror. And like bad horror relies on jump scares, and I think every death in this film was a jump scare.
Yeah.
And like they do have suspenseful scenes, I will say, but the problem with their suspense, and I guess this is my final before we move on to other things, is that they'll have the sharks there, push the plot forward, and the sharks just fuck off for no reason. Yeah. They just leave, and I don't understand. Like sometimes, like they were like in that scene with like the roof is firing down. And the shark kills the one woman, and then the fucking Thomas Jane is like, "Oh no, she died!" And it's like the shark can just come murder you as well. Like I don't know why the fuck you're.
That's parts. Why they all just die in that scene? It's very weird.
Yeah, like it's a very. But yes, I just think it doesn't do a good job of suspense.
No.
But I don't disagree with you. I think Michael Rappaport in this film was also just, what are you doing? When I realized who he was, and I'm like, you haven't made a single joke, and your character is just very annoying. Like, what are you doing here?
To be fair to the casting department of Deep Blue Sea, late 90s, Michael Rappaport was certainly like peak Rappaport time for whatever reason.
Peak Rappaport time is a very funny sentence.
Yeah, he's really like, he's certainly like a 90s kid. But no, I find him to be jarring and grating in this movie at best. But yeah, I'm happy to give it to Saffron Burrows. Because, like I said, I'm surely being blinded by my own personal dislike. We can move on to the, of course, aptly named, you know what happens when a toe gets struck by lightning award for the worst line of dialogue in this movie.
Okay, the first one we have up, this is the scene where LL Cool J and Samuel L. Jackson's character meets for the first time. LL Cool J, aka Preacher.
Love when 3 white people write dialogue supposed to be delivered by 2 black guys. It's great.
You're the guy that got caught in that avalanche, right?
Yeah, I'm the one.
Like black men don't have enough ways to get killed without climbing up some stupid-ass mountain in the middle of God's nowhere. Need to leave that to the white folks, brother.
Need to leave that to the white folks, brother. In the middle of the ocean at a shark lab.
Yeah, that's the thing that's the funniest about it is like this man is a cook on a ship, not a ship, like a lab in the middle of the ocean, which is like, if we're talking about white people shit,
That's
white people shit.
Pot calling the kettle black. Except, you know. Also, that line incredibly racist, by the way. So just fuck you, film.
It's so. We were talking about in the break. I think what they want, or they thought that the Samuel Jackson character was like this character who he's the money guy. Nobody respects him. They sort of have a line about it when he gets off the helicopter for the first time, and everyone's supposed to not like him because he's like the big business and like lording over them, or like just is cutting their funding and all this stuff. But again, they just got the wrong guy, or they didn't have Samuel Jackson play it the right way, or they didn't write it the right way, because he's the only likable character in the entire movie.
And it seems like he actually wants.
Are really reasonable.
He doesn't do anything wrong. Everything's reasonable. He wants them to succeed. He's like, I don't want to cut this off, but just from like
but you let a shark escape and attack a boat, so like
yeah, like I have to do something. Like we've been dumping a shit ton of money on you, and our money, like not losing just money, but their stocks are going down. So. Right. He needs to justify this. And, like, even afterwards, he's like, yeah, you guys did it. Congratulations. And then everything goes to shit, obviously. But, yeah. Speaking of Samuel L. Jackson, in the scene right before he gets bit in half, this is the beginning of his scene where he's trying to make everyone be like, we have to stop infighting.
Yeah, and I didn't put the whole speech in the doc because the whole speech is not super important. But the opening line is hilarious.
Cuts out the arguments like, hey, you think water's fast?
That's enough now from all of you. You think water's fast? You should see ice. Seal off this
poetically, I understand what he's going for. The monologue is not written well enough to excuse the like poetic license, and then certainly, if we're just being pedantic, water is faster than fucking ice.
Yeah.
I remember, because obviously I remember that the death was coming. It's kind of the only thing I even remember about this movie. And as soon as he started talking, I was like, oh, this is the monologue that he's going to die in a second. And I actually had to stop and rewind. I was like, did he just say, you think water's fast? You should see ice? Is that what he said?
I had to like contain the laughter when he said that line because I was in a room with people and everyone else fell asleep, rightly so. Because the movie fucking sucks.
That's not that far into the movie.
It's not. No.
40 minutes or something like that.
All right, next up, Preacher again. This is after Samuel L. Jackson dies. She'd always draw to the inside straight when she could have stopped at a pair.
Which is talking about, we actually haven't even mentioned the doctor's name yet, is talking about the other female doctor whose name I don't remember.
Who doesn't have really a character besides the fact that she like was married or dated Stellan Skarsgård and she screamed
she's
a
there
lot.
To be sad about him dying. Janice Higgins is the character's name, played by Jacqueline McKenzie. And this is after her death in the elevator, which we did just mention. And they go into her room, and it's the first thing he says, which I as far as I can tell, means nothing. It doesn't. It is like a poker reference because they say they're gonna have a poker night, and she'd always draw to the inside straight when she could have stopped at a pair. Doesn't. I mean, I don't understand what they're even trying to say about her. Like, she always wanted more, but then that's not why she died. She died because she was in an elevator shaft with a shark. It doesn't mean anything.
Just how she knew she would go, hanging off of a ladder after a shark comes up and bites her in half. If we're ever caught in some kind of horror movie scenario And if I die and someone makes a poker reference about my death, slap them. Just slap them.
Absolutely. You have my word.
Somebody in that room, they'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Someone gonna be like, no, what the fuck are you explaining yourself?
Instead, what they do is Michael Rappaport's character just starts talking about where she's
about her
vibrators.
I forgot about that. Holy shit. Like, she's a healthy girl. What?
It's so weird.
Like, what, dude? Like, she doesn't have a flashlight. You go straight for fucking insane.
The thing I love, it's very similar to the ice water line for the previously, because it like has the structure of a poignant, clever line, and then you think about it for like half a second, you're like, it just doesn't mean anything. It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. That's one thing. It's just nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah. All right. Next up, 2 more lines. We talked about this beforehand, but this is like towards the. This is in the climax of the film.
You need some context for this, but not too much context.
Yeah,
it doesn't actually make any more sense.
It doesn't. Like, I mean, can you give us a little bit more context about it?
So this is the final scene of the film. Preacher, Susan, and Thomas Jane's character, Carter, have escaped. They seem like they're the ones that are going to survive the movie, and then gets attacked by the shark. Although he lives somehow, even though the shark has him firmly in his mouth in the water, but he gets out, climbs up onto the facilities out of the water. Dr. McAllister patches him up, and he comes out of his like stupor for a second to say, "It's the devil you know." Which, again, it's like these last 2 lines. It doesn't mean anything. "It's the devil you know" is like it's like the saying, "It's better the devil you know than the devil you don't" is like.
Yeah, like it makes no sense. Like, who is he
does
referring to?
Does that have anything to do with the situation?
Like, has nothing to, like, he's just.
They don't know the sharks. It's so weird.
They leaned into it. His character's name is Preacher, and he cooks, and that's his entire personality.
He's really religious for a lot of this movie.
Yeah, we'll go into that later on. And the final line, once again, a lot of these lines by LL Cool J.
My pick.
Deepest, bluest, my hat is like a shark's fin.
Which is, of course, this is back. Actually, I kind of missed this trend, I'll be honest with you, when there was just like a signature rap song for every movie. Obviously, the peak of this is Will Smith going back to back with Wild Wild West and Men in Black and releasing the single for them. But
they both were fire.
Yeah, so I'm saying that's the peak. This is the nadir when LL Cool J released, I guess, a Deep Blue Sea rap song, which I had never heard of, but plays the ending credits. This is after we've just seconds earlier we just watched Susan McAllister jump into the water and commit suicide for absolutely no reason, and then LL Cool J starts rapping and he goes, "Deepest, bluest, my hat is like a shark's fin."
This is the reason why we didn't have a rap at the end of 7 Pounds.
Oh my god, imagine. I just killed myself with the jellyfish. I don't think people realize that that's
ladies
how
and gentlemen, the best joke on this podcast has happened, and we're all downhill from here. Okay, let's move on to the worst scenes.
You don't want to talk more about this fucking rap song that LL Cool J made?
No, it's a different podcast.
Do you wish they would? Because I'm like only like 46% joking that I kind of wish they started doing this again.
You know what? Yes, I would like this. Like, I feel like I would like it, but the person has to be in the movie. I don't want the song to be from someone about the movie. I want one of the people in the movie to do the song. All right, so worst scenes. We got the first one. It's as we talked about a little bit beforehand. When we do the first scene where they're trying to explain how a shark's brain could help cure Alzheimer's, it's like hoisting the shark up in the air. They what the fuck, sedate it, not enough clearly. Open it up, and they start pretty much poking around and like matching up the brains with human brains and just kind of putting them together. And that's not how science works, really. So
it's like this film really skates over the junk science a lot, which I think is for the best. This is where they try their best to like explain the junk science in this movie, and it's quite bad. And this is the first scene that both of us recorded 33 minutes into the movie, and I think that's pretty indicative of like the exact moment where this movie starts to go really quite downhill. The first 30 minutes are just like boring, some interesting setup, some Samuel Jackson being pretty charismatic. This scene is when you start to realize this movie is going to be real dog shit. When they just like
because like they start explaining them like
brains on, and they're like, what the hell's happening here?
And I think at that point I'm like, oh, they're gonna make the sharks too smart, because I forgot what the reason the sharks. But I'm like, oh, so this went bad because the sharks got too smart, right. Which also made me more sad about the Jurassic World movie, because I realized Jurassic World stole this plot line from Deep Blue Sea. So.
Well, as we've already covered, there's only ever been 3 shark movies, and they just keep recycling them. So
there's only been one good dinosaur movie.
Ooh, that's an interesting topic of conversation. I like that.
Okay, next scene. Kind of a continuation of that shark scene. We did kind of talk about it beforehand, but after everything starts, like after the movie kind of basically starts with Stellan Skarsgård characters. Dr. Whitlock gets his arm bit off. They try to helipad medevac him into the storm. It goes to shit because the sharks attack, whatever. And his gurney falls into the water. The sharks put the gurney in their mouth and basically propel his body gurney into the glass, breaking it in order to enter into the facility.
Somebody, please, tell me what that is. Please. Let's move.
You have to address the fact that he's already been underwater.
Underwater.
He's been eaten by a shark, basically. His arms have been off. He's already dying as is. But he's already been underwater for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's for a while. It's for like, they go back into the facility and they're like, what?
They're upstairs.
Upstairs.
They fail to get him into the
and also, we apparently have talked about... Because apparently they're fucking far as shit down, because we've been talking about how fucking far as shit down they were.
It takes the entire rest of the movie for them to get back up from here.
Which took like 3 seconds for them to get back in. Honestly, that makes no fucking sense. Like, if they couldn't just get in an elevator, did it depressurize itself that fucking quickly? I'm getting mad.
I actually, admittedly, I do think the pressure bubble thing, that is a thing. I think that's how underwater facilities work. I will not pretend to understand it, and I don't think this movie understands it.
No, it does not.
But no, that scene where Stellan Skarsgård lives for, I think is like, I guess, a superhero. Because actually, that should be I honestly kind of wish that was the reveal of Deep Blue Sea 2, is that Stellan Skarsgård's still alive. Is that it turns out he's fucking immortal.
He's now, it's like Pacific Rim 2, where he's like now part shark.
Oh my god, don't talk about Pacific Rim 2. It makes me so sad that movie. Pacific Rim 1 fucking rips, and then Pacific Rim 2 was just Charlie Day being weird for like 2 hours for no reason. It's such a weird movie. It's such a...
the Pacific Rim had a really solid movie, and that's it. We should pretend like the second one didn't exist.
I'm okay with that.
All right, at the 51-minute mark, as LL Cool J's in his own movie, he's being pursued by a shark. And somehow he, like, outswims / outruns a shark in the water.
Please let me get out of here.
the shark's like gaining on him, and he somehow makes it through. Let me do a quick.
It's not like a short
Googling.
swim either. He swims like 20 feet. It's like a pretty far swim that I'm supposed to believe that LL Cool J doesn't immediately die in this corridor scene, which is of course exactly how it should have gone.
I want to say he's about 15 feet away from this shark, and he's not swimming; he's running, so he's moving slower in the water. Mako sharks can swim 31 miles per hour underwater. It's like chasing a toddler down a fucking hallway. You can catch the toddler.
Oh, it's like. I think it's like trying to outrun a car.
Yeah, exactly. It's like trying to outwalk a car.
Yeah. No, it's preposterous, and of course, it is. Just again, it's just like the symptomatic of this entire movie where they're just every scene just doesn't make any sense. It's not really well thought out. Just have him be 20 feet further down the hallway and have him swim a shorter distance, but then no, that wouldn't make any sense. This is of course leads into, I think I would include the entirety of both these scenes where then he kills a shark with an oven.
As Cory just killed a spider with his hand. So you guys could just turn into the fucking YouTube video to see Cory just have a little bit of a breakdown on what to do in the middle of a podcast where you see a giant spider.
I was gonna ask you what the hell was going on over there, but I'm just gonna let you.
Not fun.
Yeah. He climbs into his own oven and then hacks his way out through the top, and then blows up the oven that he's turned the gas on in.
Yeah, which doesn't kill him. And also, how does that work? Like, why would that kill the shark and not him? And also, I do love the classic jump away from the explosion into nothing. He jumps into the water, like, oh, that saved him. But guess what? The shark was already in.
I would just say, don't think too much about it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Is my thought on it. Next up, Cory, what's our next scene?
As we talked about beforehand, probably the worst scene in the film. The doctor, McAllister, is going back into her lab to get her research notes for a good reason. But then she encounters one of the sharks. So she gets on top of she gets on top of a locker, rips out an electrical wire, and electrocutes the shark. But before doing this, she strips out of all of her clothes and stands on top of her clothes in order to ground herself so she doesn't get shot.
Yeah, so I'm glad you said that, because at first I'm watching it going, why is she doing this? Because I didn't understand what they were even trying to pretend like was happening. Because obviously, if you ever understand like a little bit of how electricity works, yes, the suit might be rubber, but one, it's certainly not like rubberized enough it's not designed to stop electricity. Let's just nip that in the bud. But more importantly, it's fucking covered in water. She's been swimming in water this whole time. It's soaking wet, as the table that it's on, she would be electrocuted to death.
No, she'd be super fucking dead. And I don't understand like why they're like, oh yeah, no, this makes sense. Like, we know why you did it.
Yes, we know why you did it. I mean, it's but, on like, the cover, it's on the poster of this movie, is her in her underwear. So like they knew what they were up
Which
to.
scene is worse? Actually, you know what? I think the Star Trek scene is still worse because it serves, I guess, even the Star Trek scene doesn't even like try to say it's for anything.
When Alice Eve is just changing in, I mean, it also like it seems to have destroyed both their careers, because like Alice Eve just like basically stopped working after that. I actually thought she was like a pretty good actress, unfortunately.
Yeah, I thought she was good in the movie. If anything, I'm like, oh, her and Kirk can have a thing. It's like, no, it's like kind of just nothing actually. Yeah. Like, not even a love interest.
It's very odd.
Pointless.
And it's odd in a way that I just like. I guess 1999, we still didn't really have like internet for it, and people were just like dumb horny on me.
Gotta go to the movie. Well, you know this movie? Yeah, man. She takes her clothes off and stands on top of it and kills a shark.
Well, that's the thing, is it's not like this wouldn't get people. We did Swordfish, a horrendous movie not too long ago, and really like the selling point of Swordfish was like, you guys get to see Halle Berry naked, so make sure you go buy your tickets and go to the theater. I just don't even like the purpose of this is so weird. It like, I don't know. Maybe we're just like woke pilled. I think we don't get it anymore. But it's just so. It makes me so sad.
It's also like Deep Blue Sea's rated R, like,
but it's rated R for violence. That's the thing is they don't even like really do anything.
Do they even curse? I didn't remember hearing like a single F-bomb.
Samuel Jackson must say fuck, right? He must.
He has to say fuck at least once. All right, and the final scene of the film is when they're actually killing the final shark. This is supposed to be the final battle. This is supposed to be like, this is it. This is it.
This is post the reveal that the sharks had a quote unquote plan, by the way.
Yeah, no, the sharks have a fucking plan. Like these sharks
had a plan.
Have been figuring this shit out. And they've been scheming together and talking shark, and they're like, this is how we're gonna get out of this place.
I just love the idea that like also their plan was like, so just to be clear, this movie starts with a shark escaping this facility. Right?
So we're like, it's like not hard for they could clearly escape. They know how to escape.
But their plan was they had to like destroy the whole facility so they could ram through steel instead of titanium. What are you talking about?
And also, so they bring back the shark the next day. So it's like they didn't fix the shit really. It's like not like we fixed the problem. Like you just said that they couldn't do it and they did it. So also like Samuel Jackson probably should be like, okay, so can you walk me through the security measures on how the fuck the shark got out?
Yeah, people don't seem super concerned about because they just I guess there's the exchange between Thomas Jane and Michael Rappaport where he's basically like, did you close the door? And Michael Rappaport says he did, and then of course we're supposed to believe that he did, and I guess just Jane doesn't believe him. They just think they left the door open, but you would think it would be harder if your facility was like, we have these 3 sharks that we desperately need to research, even before we realized that they were superhuman genius sharks. You'd think you'd have a better security system than just like, this one guy's got to make sure he locks the door. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hopeful. But of course,
think you're being too hopeful.
We were talking about the final scene where Dr. Susan McAllister commits suicide for no reason.
I think as we mentioned beforehand, like we've established that this is stupid and it doesn't make any sense at all for why the shark would turn around really. But yeah, like, I mean, also think about it as well. We've been going this entire time and we've been like trying to get our notes back and shit like that. You're probably the only person who probably could recreate this. You're like the only person who could like, I'm not saying we don't do this again, but I'm saying you could probably do this in a much, like in an environment that that's not insane.
Yeah. Also,
like you just did.
I just like can't you just like catch it later? Couldn't you just be like, all right, it's gonna get
no,
that sucks,
no,
Che,
no, man. Hey, like, listen, what are we talking about, bro? They can't chase it down later. What happened in the beginning of the film?
That's the thing. I'm just like, I don't know if you need to jump in the water here, Susan. I don't know about that.
They caught a shark in the beginning of a film. They have the capabilities to do so. Tell me the motherfucker ain't microchipped? Come on.
It's fucking
stupid.
It's quite bad, and the scene is just like not really blocked or paced or formatted well. It's just odd. Up until the point where you're just like, the way she gets eaten is even comical. Where you're watching it and she's like floating in the water, and the shark stops for a second to like
thinks about it,
her, and then does it. And I wasn't sure what they were going for there. I think this brings us to our a point that we have been skating around. I wonder if I thought about, is this what they were going for? Now this movie is, as we said a couple of times, weirdly Christian. Like,
yes,
like in a way that tonally doesn't seem to make much sense. Is this like a sacrifice type thing?
Oh my god, it is a sacrifice type thing. To atone for her sins of creating. It's
Why?
stupid.
But why?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think at one point I'm like, this is a lot of like weird Christian stuff they keep mentioning, and then there's the one scene where they're just like saying amen as they're like getting out of the. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
The praying scene is weird, man.
The praying. This entire film is weird, but the praying scene is like super duper weird.
Yeah.
And then he kills the shark with the cross. Like, is this supposed to mean anything? Does it mean anything? This is stupid.
I think it is.
And then, of course, with the as a reference to Jaws, there's two references to Jaws actually, but they had to end the film with blowing up a shark, which I'm like, this is why.
Yeah.
In the most overly complicated way possible too. Just
especially because it just doesn't look cool. It's poorly done.
Also, why is it in the
Harlin,
daytime?
Again, good. Yeah, I guess because then they needed the scene where they come get rescued, right?
Yeah, but just have the sun come up though. Have it be when the sun's rising.
Although, would that scene have been even more incomprehensible in the dark?
I would have probably preferred it though.
Because he wouldn't have seen anything.
Yep.
What's the worst scene though, Corey? We have
No, I think that's my worst.
Nominees.
I think the taking off the clothes part, because I was just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
I mean,
actually,
I think,
you know what? Up until the part where she takes her clothes off, I actually think that's one of the more effective horror scenes in the movie.
Oh no, yeah, it's a pretty scary scene. It's like this. The movie should have been a lot more of those.
More like that, yeah. That's why I was actually even more annoyed when she took her clothes off. I was like, God damn it, we were. It was kind of interesting for a second, and then it. Yeah.
But I think as a composition and just anything about it, the finale climax of this film is just straight up dog shit. So I think that's probably the worst scene.
Yeah,
the close scene is the more offensive scene, though.
I think I'm gonna agree with you there that it just is like confusing in a way that I don't particularly. I don't think they understood, and I don't understand. Anything else before we take a quick break and come back and try and make a good version of this movie?
Nope, nothing else for me.
All right, we'll be right back.
So, what exactly does a shark wrangler do?
Pretty much what it sounds like, I guess.
How'd you end up here at Aquatica?
I like the water. Pays good.
Hey, an auger mask. Did some wreck diving in one of these off the coast of Spain. Tourist thing, you know? Mm-hmm. You, like wreck diving?
It's okay.
Come on, I bet you're really good at it.
We're on the water. Old cat and mouse thing, don't float. You're the man, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the man.
Well, a man's always got a file. What's it say?
2 years, Leavenworth, smuggling.
How'd you make your money, man? You the first rich guy in history to squeak it clean?
You do understand my concern, right?
Look, I got a workable deal here. I don't make waves. I meet the terms of my parole. I'm not out to change the world like the doc. And I'm not out to wreck it either.
And we're back.
What's up?
All right, it is time. You're in the production offices of Bishop and Shabazz to remake Deep Blue Sea, but this time is going to be good. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to run down my writer, director, and cast for this film. I don't think either of us, I think we both agree that you don't need to do a lot to the plot of this movie, right? I wasn't thinking, at least I wasn't thinking I'm going to change a whole lot.
No, I don't. I agree with you. I don't think it's a lot to do with like we don't need to do like
good concept,
the
as we
plot.
said before. It's just written and acted and directed poorly.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're like sci-fi, stuck at an underwater facility, getting chased by sharks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Just not bad. Like, we don't end the scene with the shark whisperer somehow finding his way on the back of the shark. Like, I still was that scene's also crazy. The climax really sucked.
It's quite bad because it's like, I feel like this happens a lot in monster movies, or really just like action movies in general, where they have to undercut. They've built up this thing to be unbeatable, and so they have to undercut sort of the rest of the movie to actually end the movie. So you make these sharks geniuses who had this incredible plan to like sink the ship so they could break through the fence, and then they get killed because like Thomas Jane is like a super shark. I don't really get what Thomas Jane's power is supposed to even be. He just like knows when sharks are gonna attack.
And it seems like it's like not even the weird thing about the Thomas Jane characters. They introduced him as this guy who was like he used to like kind of like go into old rigs and illegally take stuff. Like he was, but like what does that have to do with him knowing about sharks?
Very weird. Doesn't make any sense. Either way, Thomas Jane is not going to be in my remake. So
no.
First question is of course movie, miniseries, or TV show. I think the prospect of making like a shark TV show. This is morbidly interesting, but no, thank you.
No.
It's a movie.
This is a tight 90 coming from me. This is not overstaying its welcome. We are going in and we are staying. We're just not wasting any fucking time.
That is, I will say, by far the worst part of the Meg 2. I'm just quickly looking up the runtime. I remember it being insane. It's 2 hours.
I can't believe you saw that in theaters. How long?
2 hours.
Jesus Christ.
It is actually, admittedly, shorter than I thought it was. I think it felt closer to 3.
Oh my god.
But this is a movie. I have the director. I always try to do these sort of reasonably, but I couldn't get this director out of my head, so I'm just going to mention him, even though I don't think this Oscar-winning director would make this, admittedly, still like pretty.
We do exist in a movie. We have so much money at this production studio. We could throw it around.
It's true. We have basically the equivalent of David Zaslav's yearly salary, so we could make actually interesting stuff instead of whatever.
We could do good for the world. We could actually.
But I just kept thinking, watch this movie, like, why hasn't Bong Joon-ho, the creator of The Host, one of the best monster movies ever, and Snowpiercer, one of the best action movies ever, and for me, the perfect shark movie is a great monster movie mixed with a great action movie. I would love to see a Bong Joon-ho shark movie, but let's be reasonable. Like I said, Oscar-winning director, probably one of the most exciting directors working right now. I don't think his plan is to follow up Parasite, one of the most celebrated Korean films ever made, with a shark movie. So we'll
coward.
Listen, I agree, but so the name I landed on instead was Jennifer Kent, who I don't know if I have used her before, but she made.
I don't believe you have.
2. I think I thought about using her for one of these exercises before, but she made 2014's The Babadook, one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. Have you seen The Babadook?
I've seen The Babadook.
Fucking horrifying, right?
Yeah, that's a scary fucking film right there.
And The Nightingale, which is a brutal revenge action movie that's also got some pretty horrifying elements in it. That's also quite good. And those 2 movies, I think, would make for a really great. Now, either of them have I think even one joke in them. There's no laughs at all. I think you need.
I think it's funny where she's just like kind of berating her child. I thought that was hilarious.
I didn't love that part. Yeah, but I think you need a bit of a levity in a shark movie. But I don't think Jennifer Kent is unable to tap into humor. But those 2 movies, I think, exactly what I was saying. Great horror, great action, combine them together, and just like a really exciting director. I can't wait to see what she does next. Been a minute since she's made a movie. I think at least a movie that I have seen. But writing for this movie is I have Matthew Michael Carnahan, whose name I hope I didn't fuck up. I do love 21 Bridges. I will say that movie I think actually kind of fucks. He also worked on Dark Waters, but the movie that I was really thinking about for this is The Kingdom. Which, have you seen The Kingdom, Cory?
I don't believe I have. Pretty
fun action movie starring Jamie Foxx, Jennifer Garner. He also did World War Z, which is I know people who read the book hate it. I admittedly have never read World War Z, so I don't have that sort of relation to it. It's actually pretty fun. I know the book's supposed to be really good. It's on my list for.
But no, it's a completely different. It's a different thing. It just has So I think the movie's
not even a bad. Pretty fun.
It's not a bad adaptation. It's just a completely different thing with the same title.
Yeah. But this, I think his levity and sense of action and pace would be really effective for a good shark movie. Obviously, this isn't like Bong Joon-ho, but just trying to be realistic here. I think the guy who made Dark Waters, Mazel, and 21 Bridges is more likely to follow it up with a shark movie than the guy who wrote Parasite.
Yeah, but we're gonna slap him in the face with a shit ton of cash.
It's true. And for my cast, basically keeping the same sort of character structure. We have Russell Franklin, of course, the billionaire CEO, played by Clive Owen, who I
some work.
Yeah, well, I really like Clive Owen. I think he, as you said, is criminally underused.
I'm excited for his TV show he's gonna be in.
What's the TV show?
It's like Murder at the End of the World.
Oh, I don't know this one.
It looks like it seemed like a whodunit in like some rich person's facility in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, so Glass Onion?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay, fine with me. Love Clive Owen.
Serious.
And if we're talking sort of like the peak of action stars right now, I think John David Washington is like the guy, and I really like he's got a real physicality to him. I think he's also like quite a good actor.
I do like that pick a lot. I didn't want to take it from you. I went with my backup because I saw that pick and I'm like, that would be a good pick for this.
I think I did this right after seeing The Creator, which
is fair.
I have mixed feelings on. Maybe we'll talk about that later. I think it's really,
I gotta watch it.
It's really cool that movie exists, but the one thing that I think is inarguable about that movie is John David Washington is quite good in it. And I think I've seen everything I've seen him in since Black Klansman, which I know I'm in the minority in, that I don't love that movie. Since Black Klansman, I think I've liked him in pretty much everything. Next up for Dr. Susan McAllister, I went Emily Mortimer. Just like we talked about her in the Ryan Gosling episode. She stars alongside him in Lars and the Real Girl. She's got a real she's good at doing like the authority figure. I love her in The Newsroom, a show that is preposterous, but I still love it no matter what anybody says. But is also can be really soft and just kind, and I think that works for that character, which is I don't think what Burroughs is doing at all in this movie. Is she's never vulnerable for a second until she takes her clothes off, and even that is like just a weird scene. Then we've got Amber Midthunder for Janice Higgins, who I think would have to be more of a character in this version of the movie, but she's of course I think probably most famous for Prey, but there's another like great action star to be in this movie.
Gotta love Prey.
Yeah. Tom Scoggins, who was the Michael Rappaport character who was supposed to be, I think, the comedic relief. I went with Adil Akhtar, who has done both really great comedy. I mean, he's in one of the funniest movies of all time, Four Lions, and is quite an excellent dramatic actor. English, probably people in America best know him for being in Sweet Tooth. Is that where you would recognize him best from?
I think so, yeah.
But he's
definitely.
He's kind of a legend of UK cinema. And if you haven't seen Four Lions, do yourself a favor, go watch one of the funniest movies ever made. And then of course, I just want to run Stellan Skarsgård back because he's fucking great.
I think run him back and actually give him more of a role.
Make him a character. Yeah.
I gotta say, one of my favorite, my only laugh in the film is like, he's like, who is that? Like, that's our head science. He's a genius. Like, he's literally pissing into the wind. And I'm like, I was like, that's a pretty funny character introduction for this guy. And I'm like, oh, I wanted more of him. Why'd you kill him first?
Well, I think at that point, Stellan Skarsgård wasn't quite, in America at the very least, a household name. I don't know how much stuff.
But it just seemed like there should have been more from that character. I don't know. The way that it seemed like it was set up, like, seemed like we maybe cut some of things, you know?
Yes. Oh, for sure. I mean, I think it feels that way because now Stellan Skarsgård is much more popular, obviously after, like, Dune and the Marvel Universe.
The Avengers, yeah.
Before I think at this point, he was basically just like the guy from Good Will Hunting that nobody liked, and that was it. I don't know if he did anything else. But
that's fair. Fair. This was 99.
Skarsgård guy, yeah. But that's my movie. I'll run it down again quickly. Jennifer Kent directing, Matthew Michael Carnahan writing, Clive Owen, John David Washington, Emily Mortimer, Amber Midthunder, and Adil Akhtar starring, with our boy Stellan Skarsgård reprising his role as Jim Whitlock. Yeah, that's mine. Cory, what do you got?
Well, I think what I'm going to do for my film is I'm going to lean a lot more into what I think it should be. I'm going to go for kind of a more campy film with a lot of horror in it. Like, I'm imagining basically a slasher film. Slasher film set at like a base similar to like The Thing. So I think those are the two. But I want to keep it funny. Like, I think it or at least like, I think it can't be, because you have to know what kind of movie that you're in when you're making this, in my opinion. And so I'm basing this off of the horror film I saw last year, Barbarian. I'm getting the director and writer Zach Kreger to make it. I think he does a really good job of balancing like believable characters with insane things that are happening while keeping it a bit dark and horrifying, but also at points in time in it, it's very like fun.
I was interested to see that his actual next, despite the fact that we're definitely going to make these movies, of course, ladies and gentlemen, but
Absolutely,
his actual next credit coming up is seems like an animated comedy movie, which surprised.
Okay.
I'm interested to see. He's not directing, he's writing and starring in it as voice.
Well, like I said, that tracks. I mean, like his original career was with a sketch comedy group.
No, I know, but I'm just surprised. Usually, what happens is, or actually, usually it's not happening that often, but it feels like, since this has happened, people make the switch from comedy to horror, and they just do the Jordan Peele thing where they just make horror movies forever. Then I just really thought he was going to follow up Barbarian, which was a very celebrated movie. We talked about it on this podcast last year from last year. I thought he was going to follow it up with more horror movies, especially with the
now that we have this
horror movies.
Well, now we have him signed on for this film, he's gonna come back around then.
Fair.
But yeah, kind of going for that kind of camp. I don't want to say 80s vibe, but like kind of in that genre. I've been watching a lot of slasher films lately, so that's probably why I'm feeling that. I'm keeping Stellan Skarsgård, as I said. I want to give him a bit more of a role as like the lead scientist here, but I think he still should die. But I think as a bit more of like the explainy scientist like this, and I want to bring in Sophie Wilde from the successful horror film Talk to Me. Bit of a younger actress, kind of playing the assistant, for doctor, scientist, probably like very freshly new to it. So we kind of get some explanation from her, but maybe a bit more of like in over her head kind of vibe, and maybe a bit more of a solution rather than just blow them up. You kind of have, maybe I feel like you have to kind of contend with two solutions when you're going with these kind of things. As our Russell Franklin stand-in, are like kind of sleazy, worse of like whatever the film wanted him to be. But I think I'm gonna lean a bit more into like kind of being an asshole a bit, and I want to see Charlie Cox kind of play a bit more of this character. I feel like he might have it in him to be kind of an annoying, up his own ass kind of guy who can get humbled a bit more. I just feel like Samuel L. Jackson's character is so interesting that we just get him murdered that it's just like, oh, this is fine. And I wanted a charismatic himbo instead of just kind of a boring Thomas Jane character. And I'm gonna bring in Simu Lee because I think he can do that middle ground very well. Especially, I want to see him play like a very campy, over the top kind of character. I feel like we kind of caught him between like very funny and silly in Barbie and stoic a bit in Shang-Chi. So I'm would like to kind of balance the two of those to kind of give something. I feel like he might be in that Chris Hemsworth character category. It's like, yo, this guy's like funny. We should let him be funny and kind of play that up a bit with like a corny action film.
Yeah,
but that's my pitch for Deep Blue Sea, a film about sharks underwater. It shouldn't be that serious.
I like the Simu Liu pick a lot. I just wish that he'd done more with this the boost that he got from Shang-Chi 1. It just seems like we haven't really heard from him.
I mean, we haven't really had a lot of time to make movies, Jay.
I know. But it's been, I mean, when was Shang-Chi?
2 years ago.
2021? Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess it just feels like you kind of want to be able to capitalize on that. And then, of course, he was in Barbie, but he's not like, I don't think anybody's like, oh, remember Simu Liu from Barbie? Like he's good, but he's not.
I think everyone's just like, oh, it's like, hey, look, it's Simu again. So I think it's kind of that. I'm sure he'll be fine.
I like the cast. I like the breakdown. I know you're a big Charlie Cox guy. I think it would have to be a quite different character than
I
Jackson.
think I think it is a different character. I kind of will probably play into the character they wanted to pick for it, and not the character that they actually had.
I'm actually surprised neither of us ran Samuel Jackson back. I was thinking about it.
I just kind of imagine we want to kind of let him be free of this.
Fair.
He did get very murdered in this, and I'm like, you don't need to come back.
What if we brought him back just to get murdered again? That'd be really funny. Corey, you want to run down your
yeah, sure. Director and writer Zach Kreger. We have as Carter Blake. We have Simu Lee. Charlie Cox as Russell Franklin. Sophie Wilde as Dr. Susan McAllister. We're changing that name. Stellan Skarsgård as Dr. Jim Whitlock. Something Australian. I don't know.
Well, that is our remake. Of course, infinitely better than the original. As we've already discussed, this movie quite terrible from top to bottom. Samuel Jackson, the only really saving light in the whole thing, and they kill him unceremoniously at the 40-minute mark. But Corey, as we always do to close out these episodes, the real question is: Deep Blue Sea's terrible. Shark movies, terrible. Minus Jaws.
Yes, minus Jaws.
But is it worse than The Room?
No.
No, I don't think it's even really close.
Not even close. Not even close. No. One day we will find it.
We got pretty fucking close a couple times.
Domino's up there.
Bad.
Domino's very bad.
Swordfish made me angry in a way that I wasn't really expecting. But still,
not because of The Room.
Movie that's worse than The Room.
No, we haven't gotten there just yet.
House of the Dead was, I think, we agreed was easily the closest, but we also, as we've discussed many times and during that episode, probably shouldn't even have done that movie.
No, it was truly miserable.
I mean, speaking of shark movies, I don't know if it's come out yet, but of course our boy, his next movie is a shark movie. I think isn't it just called Really Big Shark or something like that?
Wait, what are you talking about?
Tommy Wiseau has a movie coming out or came out this year. Yeah, 2023. April 2nd, 2023. So it came out. I have not seen it, obviously. And the film is just called Big Shark. Tommy Wiseau's triumphant return to the big screen.
We're not going to be talking about that film, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know. We might have to. We might have to. I should have watched it for preparation for this, but I just forgot it.
I didn't know it came out.
Yeah. Tommy Wiseau just doesn't miss. I mean, he misses. By a mile, but he misses
a lot. I think he exclusively misses. He's in the wrong stadium when the game starts.
He's really figured it out, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
He's really unlocked cinema in a way that we'll never really quite be able to tap into. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about.
I don't either.
Deep Blue Sea, about shark movies, unless you do, Corey. You don't.
I do not.
Our next episode is going to be a regular episode. We're going to be talking about, I'm sure, Loki. What other shit ever is there to talk about?
Comic-Con recaps.
Comic-Con stuff. Some news I'm sure was coming out. And we'll be talking about Big Shark, the smash hit of 2023.
We will not be talking about nothing else for the people.
I've been Che.
I've been Corey.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Sweet Christmas.